I remember as I was taking a bath, out of nowhere, my babysitter ends up walking in and saying, Bubba, can I join you? And the craziest part was that she was already in a towel ready to get in. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 9 year. Now, in grade 9, I was just an ordinary guy, to be honest, and no, I wasn't big of a player just yet. Yes, I had experience of doing the Devil's Tango, but it was never my main goal to pull girls because I was so focused on just myself and I. But going on with the story, I remember one day in my grade 9 year, I was heading home from school, and right as I got home, I remember I ended up seeing my parents sitting in the living room looking at me saying, Bubba, you're finally back. We need to talk to you. Why, Mom? What's going on? And then my dad ends up saying, well, Bubba, you see, me and your mom, we're leaving and we're going to be going away for just a weekend, but we're going to be giving you a babysitter, okay? What? A babysitter? Mom, Dad, I'm in grade 9. I don't need a babysitter. That's so dumb. No, Bubba, you need a babysitter because you need to catch up on your schoolwork, and we know if we leave you alone, you'll just play video games in the house all day. I remember I got super annoyed when my parents told me that, but in a way, they weren't wrong. And right as I went upstairs to my room, I ended up hearing a knock on the door. I remember I ran downstairs and opened the door wide open, and I saw it was the girl that was supposed to take care of me. Except this babysitter did not look like any ordinary babysitter, because I remember she had the biggest rack I've ever seen, like insanely big cherries. And not only that, her peach was bigger than Mount Everest. I remember she looked over at me and said, oh, you must be the guy I'm taking care of. Hi, nice to meet you. Hey, how's it going? And I remember even when my dad came to the front door, he was even shocked by what my mom ended up getting online to take care of me. But anyways, my parents ended up kissing me goodbye, and they ended up getting inside their van and leaving. And right at that moment, I ended up just staring at my babysitter in absolute awe. Like, no joke, she looked like she could literally be a supermodel. It was so random how she was just taking care of me. And that's when I asked her, wait, so I have a question. Do you like babysit like full time? Oh, no, I actually like do like other stuff, but I don't want to talk about it. Okay, no, it's cool. I get it. And then I remember I ended up going upstairs to my room playing video games, and she ended up just hanging out in the living room and kind of just started walking around the house. I remember a couple hours went by, and she ended up coming upstairs to my room, and she ended up giving me a grilled cheese sandwich. And honestly, I was in absolute shock when she gave me it, because most babysitters, they would even forget to feed me, but the fact that she did honestly blew my mind. I remember after handing me the grilled cheese, she ended up looking at me and asked me a question, and she said, Bubba, I was just wondering, do you guys have a bathroom here? I mean, it's a house, so I hope there's a bathroom here. Oh, I meant like, can you show me where it is? I remember I showed her where the bathroom was, and then she saw I had a massive bathtub, because back when my old house, when I used to live with my parents, we had a bathroom that was pretty big, and there was a giant bathtub and a stand-up shower right beside it. So I remember when she walked into the bathroom and saw the bathtub, she looked at me and said, oh, wow, you have a really nice bathtub. Yeah, I guess I do. I don't really know. We don't really use it that much. Really? But like there's jets and everything in it. Oh my goodness, you should take a bath. Wait, what? You want me to take a bath? Why? Do I smell? No, I'm just saying like it's good to take a bath like every once in a while. It's good relaxation from all the stress from those video games you get. I remember I was really just in shock because how did she know I get stressed from video games? Like you guys do understand, every time I play a video game, no joke, I end up getting really stressed out because I'm a really competitive person. If you guys ever watch me play video games, sometimes I go live, by the way, on Twitch, and no joke, the amount of rage I get is insane. But going on with the story, I remember I ended up telling her, yeah, I mean, you're right, I do get stressed out. Maybe I could take a bath. That's not a bad idea. Okay, perfect. You go in your room and get ready and to take a bath, and me, I'm gonna go prepare some things. Okay. I remember I ended up leaving the bathroom, and I remember hearing her turn on the bathtub and let the water run. And as I was in my room, I was thinking to myself, why would this babysitter want me to take a bath? It makes no sense. Like, why didn't she just go in the bathtub herself if she liked it so much? But then let's just say afterwards, the most insane thing ended up happening, because I remember right as I ended up getting my towel and I put it on me while wearing absolutely nothing, I saw her and she said, okay, well, I'm gonna leave you alone for a bit. Enjoy the bath bath I drew for you. And she left the bathroom. At that moment, I just hopped in there, not wearing anything, absolutely vibing. I even got my phone and started playing Angry Birds as I was in the bath, and I was living like a king. Honestly, at that moment, I realized I actually really like baths, but over time, I actually changed my opinion on that because, well, let's be honest, if you guys take baths, do you guys actually enjoy soaking in your own filth? Like, isn't that kind of disgusting? Anyways, at that moment, I was enjoying the bath that she drew, and no joke, as I was just laying down sitting, I ended up hearing a knock on the door. I ended up yelling, "Oh, I'm not done yet." "Oh, that's okay, Bubba. I wasn't expecting you to be done." And she walks into the bathroom, and my eyes absolutely opened wide because when I looked at her walking into my bathroom while I'm in the bathtub still not wearing nothing, she looks at me and I saw that she was in only a towel, and she said, "Here, step aside. There's room for both of us. You want to take a bath with me?" is what I told her. And this girl, she ended up just taking off her towel, and her cherries and everything were out, and she ended up just sitting right beside me in the bathtub. At that moment, I didn't know what to do, what to say, and I'm just sitting there super awkwardly, just in shock. And I remember trying my best not to look at her too much because I knew, knowing me and how active I am in the Devil's Tango, 100%, if I looked at her even a glimpse more, I would get bricked. I remember I'm just looking towards the wall and she's just enjoying the bath, and she looks at me and says, "Bubba, is there something wrong? Is there something on my face you're not looking at me for?" And that's when I looked at her, and that's when I got bricked. No joke, I got so bricked to the point where she noticed that something was growing in the bathtub, and she looks at me and says, "Oh, okay, well, this is awkward. I didn't think you hit puberty that fast." Bro, what was this girl saying? No joke, I honestly got super embarrassed, and it got to the point where I didn't want to be in there anymore. You guys probably thought I ended up doing the Devil's Tango with her, but I honestly didn't. I was so embarrassed to the point where I got out of the bathtub with my bricked eggplant, and I literally put on a towel and I went straight to my room, dried off as fast as I could because I had carpet floors. I did not want to get soaking wet, and I just laid in bed. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I ended up beating the eggplant, but I had to just to get rid of it. I remember like half an hour later though, I ended up hearing a knock on my door, and it was the babysitter, and she was like talking through the door saying, "Bubba, I understand if you're embarrassed and you don't want to talk about it, but like, do you need any help?" Any help? In my mind, I didn't know what to do, so I ended up just locking my door and I just went to bed. Until the next morning, honestly, me and her, we ended up not talking for the next 2 days while she was at my place, and I just tried any way to avoid her. I gotta say, I'm not proud of that day whatsoever, but at the same time, like, what would you guys do? And if you guys would do the Devil's Tango, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Okay, so usually when you're babysitting someone, you're supposed to usually stay at your own house as you're getting babysat. But this one babysitter I had decided to take things to a different length and decided to take me, well, to her house. And what happens at her house? Well, I think you guys may know, but let me tell the story instead. But before we do, make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It seriously means a lot when you guys do. And a quick announcement, I'm going to be currently streaming on Twitch and also streaming to you guys live. So I guess join me live and watch me play games and tell stories live. Yeah, that's basically it. Anyways, other than that, let's just jump straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to an embarrassing story. So this story all takes place back in my high school years, and funny enough, this was when I was actually in grade 11. So this was me turning 16 to 17. And when I was 16 turning to 17, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't a well-behaved kid, and to be honest, my parents did not trust me whatsoever. The reason for this is because, well, I was known throughout my school for being a total F-boy and not really paying attention to school, because the only thing I would actually care about was smashing as many women as possible. You guys may know this from watching the channel and realizing, wow, this guy has a really high body count. And yes, when you have a body count of 143, it tends to be that way. But going on with the story, I remember basically back when I was in high school, my parents, like I said, did not trust me. So what usually ended up happening when they wanted to go on a trip was they would end up leaving me with a babysitter. Now, I remember one time I ended up going inside my kitchen one morning and I ended up basically getting ready for school and was ready to basically, you know, do what I had to do. It was a Friday, and I remember right as I walked into the kitchen though and started grabbing a cup of water, I ended up looking in the side of my eye and I saw my mom was on her laptop. Now, there are usually only two reasons why my mom would be on her laptop. The first reason would be to, you know, message my grandma on Facebook and see how life's going and check on updates on other people. And right as I looked in the corner of my eye, I saw that she was on this babysitter site where she would grab the most weirdest babysitters in my area. Now, I don't know what website this was, but if this video gets over 10,000 likes, I will try to find the website and hire a babysitter for me at this day and age. Yeah, a 22-year-old's gonna hire a babysitter. I don't know how this is gonna go, but like I said, 10,000 likes and we'll see if we can make it happen. Anyways, going on with the story, when I saw this, I remember I was in panic because obviously this weekend I had major plans to go hang out with my friends while my parents were gone. So I ended up walking up to my mom and I told her, Mom, what are you doing? Like, why are you looking for a babysitter? I don't need one. I'm gonna be busy this weekend. No, Baba, you have to be home and focusing on school, so I'm going to hire a babysitter to make sure you focus on school. You're not going out at all this weekend. And me, obviously, I was really upset. I'm like, there's no way my weekend's gonna be ruined by a woman that's going to try to sit on me because, well, babysitter. Get it now? Okay, going on. My mom ended up telling me that I had no choice, and well, one thing led to another. I ended up basically going upstairs to my room really upset. But obviously, I still had school, so I got my backpack and I went straight to school, and I told my friends how basically I was not able to do anything this weekend whatsoever. And obviously, my friends were really upset about that because apparently there was going to be a senior party where all the grade 12s and older cool kids would be hanging out at some person's house. Now, obviously me, I really want to go because this person that was hosting the party was some popular girl at our school that was way older than us, but she was really attractive and really hot. So obviously I wanted to go, but obviously knowing what I knew, I couldn't, and I was really upset until something insane happened. I remember when I got home from school that day, I was obviously really annoyed because, well, my friends were all gonna have a good weekend other than me. But as I got home, my parents packed up their bags, they got ready for their trip, and right as before they left, I remember a person knocked the door. Now, obviously this was the babysitter, so I ended up basically walking up to the door, opened the door, and I saw it was the popular girl from my school that was hosting the party. Now, at this point, I was really confused. I'm like, wait, she's gonna be with me this weekend, but she's also hosting a party? How is this even possible? And one thing led to another. I remember as my parents right away just leave the house, this girl ends up basically like, you know, kind of ignoring me because she thought it was really dumb how I was a 16-year-old getting babysat. And she ended up calling all her friends and stuff and basically tried to plan out this party that she was having. I remember after like, I want to say 17 phone calls with 17 different women because girls talk so much for some reason, I ended up walking up to her around dinner time and asked her, wait, so are you staying the night here? Because like, I heard you're hosting a party literally tomorrow. And like, I don't know, are you gonna like be staying here? Like, what's the plan with that? She ended up looking at me and saying, oh yeah, wait, were you invited to that party? A couple friends told me about it. Yeah, but I mean like my parents want me to stay here and study. So you're telling me that instead of going to a damn party, you're gonna stay here and study like a loser? I don't want to get in trouble, you know, like obviously I want to pass school. She ended up looking at me and saying, okay, well, we'll figure it out. I didn't know what this meant by we will figure it out because obviously her job was to babysit me and my job was to basically do my homework. But I want to say the next day came around. The next morning, she ended up waking up on my couch and walking up to my room. She said, I need to be for real with you. I need to make sure I host that party. This is the final year of my high school year and I want to make it count. So what do we got to do to make sure you don't tell your parents? I ended up looking at her and I said, well, to be honest, I want to go to the party. So if you invite me and I'm allowed to go, then I'll go. Okay, fine. You're invited. Well, there is another thing. Is it cool if like, you know, my friends come? Yeah. Aren't they already going? Like, hello, it's an open invite party, dummy. Will you, you know, be my date to the party? She ends up looking at me super weird when I said that. And to be honest, I don't know what I was trying to pull there. To be honest, she was super hot and I thought, I thought I should just spit some riz. So she ends up saying, sure. Yeah, I don't see why not. You can come with me, I guess, and look like my date. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in. But then I told her there was one other thing we had to make sure of. So in my house back in high school, we basically had security cameras placed around the house so I wouldn't host any parties. So basically, I remember me and her, we had to overdrive like basically a bunch of footage of us being around the house and doing house things. So we ended up basically recording a long like 40-minute video of just doing the same things over and over again, and we placed it on loop before we left for the party. I remember once I did that, I got dressed for the party and so did she, and this babysitter ended up taking me to her house where she was hosting this massive party. When we got there, I remember a lot of people were already at her doorstep just hanging out waiting, and there were so many girls that were at this party. And I remember me and her, we ended up partying all night at her place, and it was awesome because all my friends saw me come with her. Everyone was looking at me. To be honest, it was like I was the star of the show. And me and her, we ended up looking at each other thinking, wow, we really pulled this off where I got my great weekend and she still gets paid for watching over me because technically speaking, she was still my babysitter. And one thing led to another. There was one moment at the party where me and her, we were totally wasted, which by the way, do not underage drink. I am just saying that because that was me in high school. Just don't do it. It's not cool. It doesn't make you any cooler than anyone else. And basically me and her, we ended up basically talking together, and we saw that me and her, we were pretty cool together. We make a great team. And well, what do most guys do with their woman teammates? Well, we ended up going to her bedroom and we did the devil's tango. I want to say this wasn't a shocker because, well, I was 16, she was, 17 turning 18. Like, it made sense. We were both basically teenagers, and well, even though she was considered my babysitter, she was still hot. Like, hello, doesn't it make sense? And I remember me and her, we basically ended up doing that whole thing. We ended up doing the Devil's Tango. And it was funny because some of my friends ended up walking into the room as I'm middle of, you know, hitting it from the back, which was really awkward. And sorry to one of my buddies that saw that. I know you did not want to see my massive eggplant, but hey, it is what it is. And I want to say the next day, me and her, we woke up beside each other with absolutely nothing on. And we realized that, oh my goodness, my parents were going to arrive at the house literally in less than 2 hours. So me and her, we ended up getting up and we ended up basically cleaning up the room as fast as we could. We ended up cleaning up the house that she lived in as fast as we could. And then we instantly drove in her car and got straight to my place. And basically we were still in a, like, you know, party clothes, but we didn't have enough time to change because my parents literally just pulled into the driveway as we entered the house. So I remember she ended up going to the bathroom and basically getting changed. And me, I ended up basically kind of like sitting in my room pretending I was playing video games in like really nice like party clothes. And my parents, when they came inside, they ended up going upstairs and saw me basically like with like stains on my like nice dress shirt. And like, well, I'm gonna just say this, they weren't fooled. They basically knew the video was on loop because my dad went to go check the security cameras right away. And me and her, we got in severe trouble. But at the end of the day, I mean, hey, even though she didn't get paid the full amount she was supposed to, I still did the Devil's Tango with my babysitter. So am I really losing there? Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. I remember when I went downstairs, I ended up walking up to my babysitter and I saw she had her finger up her nose and then she ended up scratching her peach with it. Like, ew. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So this story takes place back in my grade 5 year. So I was in elementary school and I was just a basic kid, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know any better than the average child. The only thing I cared about back when I was in grade 5 was tech decks, video games, and also probably Pokemon. I love Pokemon and to this day I still do. But one thing I will say is that one thing I hated was that I was a major introvert, meaning that I would never be able to really go out and talk to people. Hell, I was even nervous to go and buy a pizza one time. Like, I could not talk to anybody and I always felt like I was really awkward. Obviously, throughout middle school, I started learning how to not be, but especially in grade 5, honestly, I was just not good with interacting or basically confront someone in any way. But I remember one time I was walking home from my elementary school after my classes were done and I basically started heading home. When I finally got home, I saw my parents were looking at me, and one of my parents ended up walking up to me, which was my mother, and said, "Oh, Baba, so we're gonna be leaving for a couple days. We're gonna give you a babysitter, so do not worry, everything will be okay." "Where are you guys going?" "Oh, we're going to quickly go visit your auntie in the States, so you do your thing here. Don't worry, the babysitter will be here any minute, but we have to go now, okay? I left some grilled cheese sandwich for you at the kitchen." Okay, is what I said, and right away my parents ended up leaving. Obviously at first I was really nervous about being home alone, but at the same time, like, it didn't seem that much of a difference since I wouldn't interact with my parents anyway, even if they were home. So I remember I ended up just going straight up to my room and started playing video games. Obviously in grade 5 you don't really get any crazy homework, so you know, I just ended up sitting there, sitting on my Xbox, playing video games the entire time and pretending that everything was okay. Until out of nowhere, I remember the doorbell rang and I ended up hearing someone at my door. Now once again, I was a major introvert, like to the point where I was scared of everything. I was even afraid of my own shadow. So when I heard the doorbell rang, I remember I was super nervous to go basically answer the door. Then I ended up going onto my balcony and looking down at my front door to see who it was. When I looked down, I saw that there was a girl in like a crop top. She was like a basic girl. And I remember I saw that there was already a stain on her shirt. And I'm not gonna lie to you, she looked disgusting. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I basically ended up looking down and she looked up right away and saw me. She ended up saying, "Hi, you must be Bubba. Can you come get the door?" I mean, I can. "Okay, well, can you?" I remember at that moment, I felt like it was a really awkward situation. So I remember I ended up basically going off my balcony, sprinting straight to the front door, and I let her in. When I let her in, I remember she looks over at me and she started smiling at me. And when I saw her smile, I am not joking, she had the most yellow teeth ever. Like, her teeth were more yellow than Big Bird. Like, it was ultimately disgusting. And I remember I kept looking at her thinking, how in the world did my parents find this babysitter? I remember she ends up coming in and she ends up basically, like, you know, introducing herself and basically telling me how we're gonna have a great time and just, you know, the basic rundown of how the night's gonna go. Obviously for me, I ended up just, you know, ignoring her somewhat. Obviously this wasn't my first babysitter ever, but I will say that, you know, I just ended up just pretending I knew what she was saying, shaking my head, and I went straight back upstairs. When I went back upstairs, I remember I ended up going straight to my Xbox and I started playing Xbox again. But 5 minutes later, she ended up coming up to my room, and out of nowhere, even on the stairwell, I ended up hearing like a little fart sound, and I was like, wait a second, what what was that? And then I ended up seeing my babysitter walk into the room and say, oh, hey, Bubba. So I was just wondering, I'm a little hungry. Are you hungry? No, my mom gave me food before I left. Oh, okay. Well, I'm hungry. So is there anything for me to eat in the kitchen? I mean, you can just help yourself, is what I said. And I remember she went straight downstairs and basically started doing her own thing. To be honest, I don't know what she did because I was upstairs playing Xbox, but I remember 20 minutes went by and I ended up basically getting actually hungry. I don't know why in grade 5 I would eat a lot. To be honest, I was a bit overweight back when I was in grade 5. But anyways, afterwards, I ended up going downstairs, and when I started to head downstairs, I turned the corner and instantly I ended up seeing that this babysitter was leaning back on a chair in the dining room table with her feet kicked up onto the table with her toes out, and she was eating crackers and ketchup together. Now, listen, crackers and cheese, that makes sense. You know, cheese and crackers, that's fine. But ketchup and crackers? Like, are you joking, bro? That's disgusting. I remember at that moment, I looked at her and I basically looked at her really weird. And she looked at me saying, oh, you must be hungry. Here, do you want a cracker and ketchup? I'm good, thanks, is what I told her. And I remember I basically ended up walking away and went to the living room to watch TV. I remember after a while, I actually started starving even more and more, to the point where I ended up basically texting my parents that I was starving and that this babysitter cannot cook for the life of her. My parents ended up texting me, oh, Bubba, well, we left some cash for you upstairs under daddy's pillow. Go upstairs and get some money. So I remember I ended up sprinting upstairs, went downstairs, and I remember I basically ended up walking up to my babysitter saying, I was just wondering, is it cool if we order a pizza? I'm not paying for a pizza. Oh, no, it's okay. My mom gave me money to pay for it. Is it cool if we ordered a pizza? Yeah, sure, just order it. I was hoping you would order it, if that's okay. The reason I said this was because I was really nervous back then. I was really scared to basically call literally anyone. Yes, I had a phone, but it was only to call my parents. And to be fair, those were the only 2 numbers that were ever saved on my phone until obviously middle school. That's when I started pulling girls. But, you know, I was just extremely nervous. I remember this girl ends up grabbing her phone and she ends up calling the pizza place, orders us a pizza. Except this pizza was the most disgusting pizza ever. She ended up getting sardines on the pizza and then pineapples. And on top of that, she ended up getting olives on top of it. At that moment, I slammed my head up against the wall and I just knew like I was not going to eat that night, and I was just really upset. So what I decided to do is basically go into my kitchen cabinet and I ended up grabbing a loaf of bread and I ate that for the rest of the night. I remember 40 minutes went by and I ended up hearing the doorbell ring, and obviously it was the pizza guy, and I knew it was because I could smell the pizza coming from my window. And this babysitter ends up grabbing the pizza from the front door and calling me downstairs to eat the pizza with her. Now me, obviously I wasn't hungry anymore since I ate a loaf of bread, so I ended up going downstairs and I just sat with her basically. And I remember when this babysitter ended up opening up the pizza box, I am not joking, she ended up basically scratching her peach and literally was picking her nose, and then she went for the pizza slice. Like, bro, I didn't want to be anywhere near that pizza after I witnessed that. I was so disgusted, and I looked at her saying, are you not gonna wash your hands? Baba, why would I wash my hands? I'm a girl. I'm just naturally clean. At that moment, I realized that this girl had no sense of hygiene or anything. And me, I was just so grossed out to the point where I just didn't want to be anywhere near her. But let's just say things went from gross to ultimately disgusting, because what happens next, I gotta say, really freaks me out. I remember it was super late at night and it was around 10:30 at night. Now me, usually my bedtime was at 10 o'clock back when I was in grade 5. So I remember I went upstairs, I went to my room, and I basically started laying down getting ready for sleeping. But as I was laying down getting ready to sleep, I remember out of nowhere my babysitter ends up walking into my room. She walks into my room and looks at me and says, oh, Baba, I was just wondering, do you want like some company? I remember I looked at her really confused and I said, no, why? Is everything okay? No, it's just I can't really sleep by myself. At that moment, I was really confused because I'm like, wait, does this girl want to do the devil's tango with me? Like, what in the world's happening? And then one thing led to another. She ended up getting under my blanket with me and laying down beside me and passing out. At that moment, I was super annoyed because not only did this girl stink of anchovies, but she was just super disgusting. And I just couldn't sleep and I just felt like really weird. And also, what kind of babysitter does this? I remember after a while, like 20 minutes went by and me, I was still wide awake. She was passed out dead and I'm just laying there thinking this could not get any worse. But guess what? It ended up getting way worse because out of nowhere, I ended up looking to the side and I saw she ended up moving her like peach a little bit and she ended up releasing the loudest fart sound ever in my bed under the blanket. At that moment, I remember when she moved the blanket a bit around after that crazy fart, I ended up basically getting a whole whiff of what was coming out of under my blanket, and I'm not joking, my eyes started to water. I was so grossed out, and I remember I really just wanted to get out of there. So I ended up getting up, and I actually ended up sleeping on my living room couch just because I could not breathe in my room anymore. I remember the next morning came by, and I remember she ended up walking up to me on the couch, and she asked me, Bubba, why'd you pass out on the couch? Is everything okay? I looked at her, and I just kind of rolled my eyes at her, and I went upstairs to brush my teeth. But as for this babysitter, well, one thing I was right about, she did not brush her teeth. And I remember she ended up basically sitting on my couch and basically was ultimately disgusting. I will say though, when my parents finally got home, things were a lot better because obviously she ended up leaving. I told my parents, never ever get that disgusting babysitter again. They looked at me confused, but I knew what I was talking about. Honestly, if you guys don't want a babysitter like this and just fall for more embarrassing stories, peace out, guys.